Hello everyone and welcome back to Alpine Odyssey, where we get to start work here at the front plaza right next to the bus station. This is where you're going to get your tickets. This is where you're going to go into Alpine Odyssey proper, and it's kind of the first theming element that we will run into here in this whole series. So it takes a little bit of time to start gray boxing this shape in. I want a decent idea first of the overall footprint of this stuff. And if you guys have seen the basic building tutorial that I did a few months ago, or about a month ago maybe, it's been a little while, I did talk about gray boxing in shapes and getting an idea first of the rough profile of a building before moving on to make tile sets and basic theming elements. So this is phase 1 of my construction progress. Phase 2 is tiles, and then phase 3 is the minor details that actually flesh out and make the building look really unique and interesting. So, for now, the actual entrances to the park are going to be underneath these overhang areas to the left and the right. There's going to be 4 in total. That way we have a nice spread of people able to leave depending on what's kind of easier to access, and it is going to wrap around into kind of a main street section. Now, of course, a lot of this stuff is kind of placeholder, trying to establish the overall size of things and the scale, because it's super important to have a good silhouette, in my opinion. So we're going to start with the central building. The central building is kind of just the first run-of-the-mill test for this overall first theme we're going to. The first theme being a somewhat Scandinavian, somewhat Northern European element. A lot of kind of timber frame homes, wood, plaster, things like that. Very basic stuff. Here, just going in, adding some roof tiles to try and see if we can possibly use the default roof tiles. It doesn't really look like that's going to end up working. A lot of these roof tiles are kind of not very versatile, especially when you're doing these more gradual sloping barn style-ish roof lines that I like to do in these kind of more Tudor style homes or Tudor style buildings. So we're gonna be doing a lot of custom roof tiling. We're kind of used to this from Cora. Cora, in my opinion, was a great precursor to working on this park because it really got me used to working on tile sets. In fact, here is our first tile set. So this is going to be the walls. There's going to be 3 tiles here initially, and we need to have a decent little variety. We need a door tile, a blank tile, just plain wall section, and then a window tile. So using a lot of wood elements along this plaster, some dark trim mixed into some light trim, and trying to find the smallest window possible. I was thinking about possibly making even our own custom window here. And through trial and error, I just didn't really like the overall design of this one. I thought maybe, hey, if we open these up a little bit, it might look a little bit more like a ticket booth. We end up going back and kind of changing it just because there's not really a great variety in window frames, especially for these small window frames. The fairy tale ones have a lot of these curves and points on them, and they don't look too great, but I'd still want that look of that wooden, thick, rustic frame, and the pretty kind of normal looking ones aren't quite doing it for me, but it's kind of what we have to settle on in this case because it's the closest to what you might see. As campy as we want this thing to look, it still needs to relatively portray the theme accurately. So we have a bit of a problem with Planet Coaster, in my opinion, with windows in general, and that is all the windows are kind of laid on top of a wall. So windows are generally not like that. If you actually take a look at most windows in the world, they're usually inset in the middle of the wall, right? Because you need to have it to be part of the building. It's not like an afterthought that's just kind of plastered on there. And a lot of buildings have that look, and that look realistically does not portray very well into Planet Coaster. So some of this looks a little weird at first until you kind of get used to it, and this is kind of comes back to the believability argument that I like to make for Planet Coaster over realistic, because if this was going to be 100% realistic, to be honest, I would want to inset these windows about halfway through the wall, but if I did that now, they would just kind of disappear on us. So that's just one of those things that kind of bothered me here initially, but you end up just rolling with it because you still want to make progress, you still want to get a lot done, and that's what we're going to be trying to do. So we're going to have an overhang area with this kind of front door with a balcony area above. You know, actors and things like that can be useful here to greet your guests. They can also create interesting kind of height lines and different visual elements than just having a solid box structure. Having these balcony elements travel all the way down, and these thin pillars make the building look, I guess, heavier at the bottom, but still tall and slender and light throughout. So it's pretty interesting to do things like that. We're going to have some pretty large kind of custom dormer windows up here. I think they're called dormer windows. Am I right on that? I don't think I am. But I do want to make a custom wooden shingle system. So I'm doing this because a lot of the roof tiles in Planet Coaster aren't versatile enough, and you have to kind of Frankenstein base roof tiles together. So wooden roof tiles mixed onto these kind of half circle roof tiles with the square wooden roof tiles, and because everything's not cohesive, it does look a little weird when you are making a structure, because there's not a perfect variation between all the different roof types. So we're going to have to make our own custom one completely. So I want the roof to be pretty dark, kind of this dark brownish red color, and we will carry that all the way through. You can even go back in and dye a few kind of spotty ones, lighter, maybe slightly even darker than normal, and that will make it kind of pop out. And we do end up doing that on the large sections of roof. This upper section has a wooden front, plaster sides. The reference material that I was using, you guys have been sending me some things throughout the comment section, so I am kind of drawing from these elements because I think they do look good. And having these wooden kind of walled sections in combination with the plaster is a pretty cool effect. So here you can see that we want to try and make a custom roof that follows this default roof line, and we can use that to quickly lay these down. So this is going to drastically increase our part count, something that I kind of didn't want to do just so that, you know, I didn't hit the limit too early. But if everything in this park is going to be really detailed, might as well start from the beginning like this and just see how far we can take it until it breaks. You also notice that the angle, because I'm trying to make these actually shingled and layered down, does slightly change as we go up. So it kind of separates from that lower roof section, which is fine. I actually kind of like that look. Having those raised bit and those wooden bits there looks like it is a water kind of runoff section, possibly. It does look kind of cool to me, so I am leaving it like that for now. If you guys have any other suggestions, I might consider it, but I just like the texture that brings to the side of the building in general. So to make the sides line up, you know, I had to add a thick board just to make sure to hide those rough areas that aren't going to blend in quite as well. And you can see the roof is just slowly coming together. And you can save these elements, edit these elements like we're about to do, so that you can keep using them as a base. And as you progress through your theme, this is your jumping off point. So I can recolor this roof. I can use the different elements to quickly make new tiles if needed. I can use these elements and possibly even change the material relatively quickly and go from there. So the first section of the park is going to be, as I said, that Northern European, Scandinavian-esque area. Now, being from America, I don't have a well-versed kind of knowledge of the section, so it might look weird or maybe not 100% accurate to a lot of you all who are from Europe. I do have a lot of viewers from there, so correct some of my mistakes if you like, but there's really not much I can do beyond look at some reference images, and even then I might be looking at the wrong area and really not knowing what I'm talking about a lot of the time. So do forgive me for that. It's kind of the limitation of my knowledge so far. But this roof tile is slowly coming together. There's still some more custom sections that we need to make and work in, and a lot of these wall pieces are relatively quick to kind of slap together at this point. This is why you spend a lot more of that front time kind of figuring out the base tile set and trying to get this to work together. A lot of effort kind of goes into this kind of stuff, at least for my builds. I know a lot of people do kind of prefer just hand building everything, and that's perfectly fine. If you enjoy that process, that's great. You can come up with the exact same thing, and it just might be a little bit slower, but that's totally up to you. There's no real wrong or 100% right way to use Planet Coaster. The only thing that I would suggest everyone to do is to learn hotkeys and get comfortable with the system in general, because that's just going to speed you up passively. And from that point, it's basically being comfortable with your general workflow and getting everything built at a decent pace, or at least decent enough so you can feel accomplished at the end of the day. So this build took, for example, me about 2.5-3 hours. I know a lot of people probably don't have that much time, so they might want to start downloading things from the workshop. There's plenty of good stuff on there, and I suggest you doing so if that's something you want to do. But the front and back, it's simply going to match. Here you can see the roof tile is too tall. I think it was an 8-meter tall base roof tile, and it was not going to work. Same thing with this addition over here. So we're going to have to kind of stitch something custom together, and it's relatively quick to do something like this. It's definitely a good idea to save these pieces for later, because you never know when you might need them again. I learned this a lot by the Cora build. I didn't do that often, and I promised myself I'd be a little bit, or at least try to be more efficient with this build in general. So that's why I want to try and save everything at every angle so that we can possibly reuse it. So our tile set over to the right is just going to slowly grow as the theme progresses and becomes more interesting. The right and left kind of taller single kind of 4-meter wide sections, these are going to be the proper kind of ticketing areas. But again, this is kind of the first detail pass, so we're not going to be adding like signs or crazy lights or anything. First things first is to try and establish the first theme in the middle, and next episode we'll probably do the same thing to the left and the right wing. Those buildings are going to be obviously different from the middle one, at least a little bit. They might share some of the tile set. I'm not quite sure just yet how I want to do that, but we might even make some of them look a little bit more unique. I want to maybe try and get a tower in one, maybe 2 buildings, and not make the left quite match the right side, and vice versa, and go from there, because that's going to bring some unique kind of elements. We are also going to be building relatively close to the bus station that we built on live stream here last Sunday. Now, that bus station, I'll show you here in real time, is eventually going to turn into a metro station down beneath, and it will actually end up having a rail system to take guests here. But due to the parking lot taking up a lot of that room, we're kind of having to condense a lot of space together. So this plaza can't be massive by any means. It's not going to separate itself from this bus station too much. And that might bother some people because it's quite the clash of themes. You have this modern kind of iron-worked theme here, and then that's going straight up against this Tudor style theme. And I actually kind of like it because what this is going to do is it kind of sets up the division between the two worlds. So the theme park world being very kind of themed and fantastical, kind of these elements that you wouldn't see every day, just bumping right up against the modern world and kind of breaking that boundary down a little bit, so that when you walk through this kind of threshold that we are building, you are in a completely different area. You won't be able to see the bus station anymore, and you are kind of brought fully into this new world. Think about it like a little bit like, say, Spirited Away, how the main character and their family reach this gate, and they essentially immediately step from the real world to the spirit world in a very seamless kind of just single tunnel type of scene. And that's kind of what I'm going for a little bit with this. I don't know how many theme parks, or if all theme parks probably follow that theme, but that's something that I wanted to try and do, and hopefully you guys like the overall result. And from here, we're basically just trying to detail out some of the minor details, adding some flower boxes here and there just to make it kind of pop off the surface a little bit, so we can get some details going up through the structure, slowly working on copying the front side to the back side. Copy and paste is your best friend in these scenarios. Just try and be efficient as possible to try and keep the part count down. These roof tiles do add up a lot over time, and the more you have these kind of clipping through each other, the slower the game's going to run, and that's what we really want to avoid. So from here, we're just going to copy some more plaster around, seal up some of the gaps, make sure everything's going to look nice and clean. And I think even copy the main, kind of flip it around after deleting some of the unused sections. This is pretty laggy sometimes when you copy such a large section, but as you delete it, your game kind of recovers. And then when you paste it again to the back side, it just looks like it was always built like that, and you didn't use any tricks at all. So I think that is it for today's speed build. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a little bit in real time. You guys can, of course, then give me feedback, and we'll go from there. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode so far. Alright, so here we are at the bus station for Alpine Odyssey, and taking a look at the finished kind of first ticket booth area. We will be doing the left and right wings next episode, just because we have the theme kind of picked out for this initial section, so it should go relatively quicker at this point, and we'll then try and work in some extra smaller details just to make the whole area match the rest of the parking lot. Because if you think about it, the parking lot has a lot of stuff in there. I want to try and continue that throughout the rest of the build, and we're just basically going to have to see how far we can get. But here we go. Let's first take a look at the metro station a little bit. It is a combination of the bus kind of framework that we've been doing over in the parking lot with this new added kind of back area here. Now the back area, this is actually where the guests come from. So this path going downwards actually goes underground and connects all the way back to the entrance of our park. And currently, until I can get the metro built and functioning, that is the only way for guests to get in here. I want to focus on the park first a little bit, just so we can get away with these kind of minor details that don't really serve a purpose beyond just looking cool. So over here, we got a turnstile door. You guys suggested this during the stream, and it turned out really well. I'm really happy about it. We use trash cans to the left and right just to make sure people go through relatively straight through the doorway itself, and using some parts to have and represent the kind of handle, and it is just a simple 3 kind of pronged doorway on a spinning access point. Not much to talk about down here, but the overall skeletal structure is the same as the bus station. There's some additional kind of arching supports. We'll be ending up probably putting a lot of flat stone work here as structural elements, keeping it kind of that metro underground feel. And then another turnstile on the opposite side. So things are turning out really well, and they do blend together relatively nicely. This curved element with this more boxy element. Idea for this came from Boston when I was in there kind of visiting Frontier when they were in the US. So I really like the way that turned out. So other than that, we have the actual ticket booth here. So what we got is the kind of the Scandinavian kind of Norse style home. There's a barn kind of style roof with these upper windows using some wooden kind of front elements and that plaster kind of Tudor style everywhere else. A nice little balcony in one section there, and some flower gardens for now. I want to keep the flower garden directly in front low so that the sight line from the bus station is not impeded by these tall pine trees out front. But I did want to include some pine trees because that's going to help portray that alpine feel throughout the rest of the build in general. And we do have some buses up here just to make this look and feel a little bit more busy than normal. Beyond that, just two simple archways leading into the park itself. We will need to add some signs here. I want to try and make this look a little bit more like ticket booths rather than just windows attached to the side. But I think that's going to be something we tackle next episode now that the theme is kind of established here. So this is currently our tile set. You can see the roof tiles obviously take up a lot of that. Here's just our 3 normal wall tiles. I want to increase the variety of this over time, just so that every building doesn't basically look the same as this exact building here. But the overall theme, you can see we have this nice kind of arching shape here. We're going to have a little bit of a main street. It's going to probably cut at a 45-degree angle and then head down this direction because this is the most area we have to work with. So the main street really should be pointing down this way, which is going to give us room for backstaging elements along the edge and plenty of shop space as well. I want this whole area, this initial section, to be full of shops, food elements, but also make it feel very claustrophobic and close together and packed full of detail. So I think that is a good place to leave this episode. You guys now know the plans so far that I have thought of for Alpine Odyssey. Of course, you guys are free to leave a like, so I know you guys are enjoying this stuff. Leave a dislike too if you don't like the video. That's fine. I don't care. We also have the comment section down below if you guys want to suggest any themes or any specific buildings that you might think that I could interpret a little bit to add into our park. And at that point, I think this episode is done. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode.